Shalom, this is Deborah with Black Education TV. I just wanted to show you this morning. This right here is an incredibly large basil. I'm going to call it a bush. Basil bush, because look at the arms that are extending from this bush here. Look at all of the leaves. Now, we haven't even been able to keep up with eating this fast enough. I'll tell the children, hey, go out and get 30 basil leaves for the spaghetti sauce or something like that. And it's like, you would think that you would come out and it's like dwindling down to nothing. But as you see, it seems to get bigger and bigger. We take 30, it seems like 60 comes on, you see. The other day we picked some black beans from the garden, and I made black bean meatball spaghetti, and it was quite interesting. The children loved it. I told them I was going to do it. Usually when you say you're going to do something with beans or something like that, then you get these looks on the face as if, okay, what are we about to have now? What type of experimental dish is this going to be now? And the end result was that they all loved that spaghetti. The meatballs were seasoned quite nicely, or should I say the beans were seasoned quite nicely. Can't call them meatballs, but that's what the recipe said. It said black bean meatball spaghetti. So there was, bell peppers, onions. We put garlic seasoning. We put a little chili powder, some salt and pepper. I think I even put a little dill weed powder, in which the dill came right from our garden as well. We ground it up down to a nice powder. We mixed it all up. We put some basil in, just a whole bunch of stuff. So I added cornmeal as a thickener to the bean balls, because if you don't do that, it would be extremely too mushy. Now, they were still not quite as solid, but nonetheless, it turned out quite nice. And we had a ton of this. I had a lot more than 30 basil leaves. But anyway, in talking about the basil, at this point, what we're going to start doing is taking them off and dehydrating them. I made some basil paste the other day for another dish that I made. I made some soup, some tomato soup. With a lot of tomatoes that we had gotten from around the garden. When they start to split open, nobody really wants it in their salad type thing. So I got a lot of the split tomatoes, and we put it in the blender, and we mixed it with some basil. So I put basil paste in it too. And we made us a nice lentil soup. Of course, there were other things in there too, in the lentil soup, such as salt and pepper. I think I put some spinach in there. Just different things like that to make the soup nice and hearty. But anyway, I just wanted to show how huge this basil plant has gotten. And it's starting to seed up there. Starting to seed up. It'll keep going as long as the weather permits too. So we have a lot that we can go ahead and take off and dehydrate for later use. Anyone who buys seasonings know that seasonings are very, very expensive, especially if you're going to get the good stuff. And we don't always get the good stuff. Sometimes we just, like with pepper, you just get whatever you can get, right? But what I'm about to do now, I'm going to spend some time in the greenhouse today. Yesterday, the greenhouse was cleared out. There's still some things in there. There's still a lot of jalapeno peppers in the greenhouse. And so we're not going to take those out because they're still growing. There's still some beans in there as well, still inside of the greenhouse growing. So we'll leave those. But all of the beans that were finished, like the asparagus beans, and we have some cucumbers growing in there. Since those are finished, we have cleared those bins out, and I'm going to plant some herbs. There are certain herbs that I want to make sure They stay thriving through the winter months, or as far into winter as we can get. Because, you know, sometimes we have mild winters. If it gets too cold, of course, the greenhouse won't even help because we don't have a controlled environment in there. But it does stay a lot warmer than out here. And so what I want to do is get a lot of herbs. There are certain herbs that we've been studying lately for different things that come up on you, such as headaches and even runny nose, inflammation, just different things that can come up. You want to take something that's going to be a natural cure for that. And so I'm going to be planting some herbs in the garden. We still have, I think, a few nice months left for growing things. As a matter of fact, in the fall, that's when my garden usually does the best. The summer is like really rough on certain things. I still have my Swiss chard in the ground. You see that? It's getting bigger, but surprisingly, or should I say not surprisingly, the Swiss chard actually does better in the colder months too. They were very puny all summer long, but as you see, because it's starting to get cooler at nights, the plants are actually getting bigger. I don't like to chop them out because this is a plant that can actually come back every year. This is our first time trying it down in wood chips, and so you see they're still doing pretty good in the ground. There are some bugs that have gotten to some of them. They've gotten holes, but you know what we do? When bugs start to chew on some of the leaves of your food, we'll use those particular leaves in juice. I've been using some in juice, okay? But so much yet to talk about in gardening. Still have a lot of carrots over there. Again, first time growing carrots down in wood chips. And they come up kind of curled, like, you know, because the soil underneath is not loose enough. The carrots are coming in really curled and funny looking, but nonetheless, they taste the same. They still taste good, and they are still healthy for you. And so I'm grateful for that. We did try some carrots down in some containers here. You see those? They're not as big yet because these are fairly new plants. Not as big as the ones in the ground over there. But yeah, those in containers have looser soil. So because the soil is a lot more loose, you're going to have a greater result. Okay. I think that's all I'm going to be talking about today as it relates to gardening. We still have a lot of things inside of trays. Some things have been transplanted already. I have to de-weed this bin. I saved these seeds. This is dill weed right here. I'll let it seed up, okay, so that I can collect those seeds. But we've already planted more dill weed, and as you see here, some of the, there's some of the younger dill weed plants right there starting to spring up in various spots right there. But the rest of that stuff you see around are weeds that need to be plucked out. There's another dill weed plant. It's these right here, the ones that look like that. But the rest of this will have to be plucked out and allow the dill weed to do what it's going to do. Dill weed is very delicious and tasty in salads. It's also good with cancer prevention. Yes, as many herbs are, you know, because they're natural. And I love to eat like the basil straight from the garden. I love it fresh. Sometimes when I'm making dishes that have like spaghetti sauce or whatever, or even some of the soups that I make with tomatoes, I'll add the basil in last when it's almost done cooking, because I really don't want it to be cooked very much. You see, I literally wait till the dish is done. Then I'll add the chopped basil, the fresh chopped basil, to the dish so that there's not much heat that is hitting it. The children like to challenge themselves sometimes to come out and see who can find the biggest leaf, and they have brought in some huge leaves. Believe it or not, that one isn't that big right there. It looks big, but it's not that big compared to some of the ones that they've brought in and say, Mommy, look at this huge basil leaf. And they too like to eat them right out of the garden as well. But I'm going to go ahead and eat that one. I love you, family, and I'm going to say shalom.